Hey guys, David Clayton here with GuitarBreakdown.com. I want to thank you for stopping by, checking out another lesson. This time we have some Van Halen rhythm guitar stuff. Now if you've been following us for the last few years, you know we're pretty heavy into, the fusion, jazz, blues, fusion stuff. Even straight up jazz, we do some of that stuff. From Allen Hinds, Scott Henderson, Jimmy Herring, Michael Landau, to the straight up stuff of Coltrane, Charlie Parker, and there's a million of them. But like a lot of people, we didn't get into that when we first started. A lot of times jazz is just too boring when you first hear it, and the fusion stuff might be a little too out there because they're using some crazy chords, voicings, or they're doing some outside scales. For a lot of us, we got into guitar because we heard awesome riffs and grooves from the Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses only had one gun. But all those, even the Warrants, the Skid Rows, there's just so many great, especially rhythm riffs that caught our ear, and we said, man, I want to do that. So that's why a lot of us picked up guitar, and that's why it's so much fun to go back to this stuff. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about Van Halen's Best of Both Worlds. It's off of the 5150 CD with Sammy Hagar. And Eddie is just an amazing, he's known for his solos a lot of times, but for a lot of people, he's also known for his rhythm stuff, because he plays off Alex, who's an amazing drummer, so well. And he'll take a chord progression that's 3 chords, but it'll sound like so much more because he's arpeggiating chords, he's putting in little riffs and fills just like a drummer would. It's just so awesome. So hopefully this inspires you as much as it does us. Every time I go back to Van Halen rhythm stuff, I learn something new. And if you write a tune and you're just using regular chords and you don't know what to do, you're strumming them or whatever, this will give you ideas how to think outside the box a little bit. So I hope you like this. If you do, let us know in the comments below, because we do really lean toward that jazz fusion thing. But if a lot of people comment and really like this stuff, we'll do a lot more Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, suggest whatever you want us to teach and we'll do it. Anyway. So also in the description, there's links to our lesson packages. We've got a ton of stuff coming out, and we have a ton of stuff out already. And if you guys want, we're not going to dive note for note into this, but the tablature, the manuscript, the transcription, whichever word you want to call it, is in a link below. And yeah, let's just get started. All right, so a lot of this tune is based off of bouncing between 2 or 3 chords, but really 2 chords. A lot of it's bouncing between a D chord and a G chord, or the other way, G to D, and then he throws in an A chord in there. But the interesting thing is, it's not just going from D to G, G to D. He's using different inversions, and he's also throwing in little riffs and arpeggiating the chord in a certain way to make it sound like 2 different chords, even though it's just the same chord. And these are great strategies to use when, playing a simple part, because you don't want to, for the most part, just strum a chord. You want to think of a unique way of doing it, and this will help you do that. So the first thing he does is he just arpeggiates and goes up the A chord. Right? It's just an A bar chord. Then he lands on this, which is a G chord. And again, we're not going to get into exactly note for note. You can see the tab below, but this is basically just the middle 3 strings, the D, G, and B string of a G bar chord, right? But it has the A ringing in the bass. So if you see it in the tab or the transcription below, it's going to say G/A. So it's a G major chord with an A in the bass. Right, so you have now he's just bouncing between G to this, which is a D chord, right? Or if you play it this way, right? But it's just a voicing within the D, G, and B string, right? So you have, and that's got an A in the bass too, so that would be written D/A. Then it goes to an A chord. So that whole thing was going back and forth between G and D, little different rhythm fills at certain points. And then it goes to an A, then it goes to this voicing, which is an A string, then the second finger on the second fret of the D string, then open G and B. So that almost looks, if you put your second finger on the A string, it can be an E minor chord. But since you have the A in the bass, that's like an A7, but with a 9 in there, or 2, so an A sus2 or something like that. But that's the cool way of taking just an A chord and putting a little different spin on it. So again, he arpeggiates, and then play with those dynamics too. That's an important part of this. So you play some chords harder, louder. Right? And softer. And just keep playing with that. It's just a really, really fun thing to do. So now the second part, it gets even more interesting, because then he goes, and these aren't in order, the parts, because then he goes into that thing, which essentially that's just playing a D chord to a G chord, but he's playing the F sharp and the bass on the D to the G. Then he throws in a little bend there, right? So now, but the other part that I was going to talk about was this little, just a really cool part. Again, 2 or 3 chords there, but he's arpeggiating and making it sound so unique. So you have, you're just going up that A bar chord to the G with the A in the bass, and you just kind of sit on that for a second. And then you go down the D to the A again. And that's where he does something really interesting. Again, you could have just sat on that A chord the whole time, but he makes it sound like so much more than it actually is. Slide up to the 4th fret on the A string. Then you play 2nd fret on the B string and 2nd fret on the G string. Then you slide up again to the 4th fret on the A string. This time now you play the 2nd fret on the G and the D string. So, and then there's a little pull off from the 4th fret of the A string to the open A string, which is just a little rhythm fill. But if you notice, it sounds like there's so much going on there, but it's all just A chord with the major 3rd in there. And then the major 3rd pulled off to the root. Then he gets into these cool chords, which, barring the 5th fret basically of the D, G, and B, the A, D, and G string. Then you play that great chord, which is essentially like a G major chord, but you take your fingers and you put them up strings. So Here in the G major bar chord, you have 5, 5, 4 on the A, D, and G string. We'll take that 5, 5, 4 and move it down to the E, A, and D string. So now you have 5 on the A, E, 5 on the A, and then you have 4 on the D string. Right? So you have, and then you just pound an A chord. So the whole thing is, now also remember those dynamics. It's really important. Instead of just doing, that sounds fine, but when you really do, you get this dynamic range, especially when you pound that A. Playing a little lightly before you get to that A, it just brings out that you know, the hit on that. So you have, you know, it just sounds really, really cool and gives you a lot of range. So then after that, he gets into this thing, he does it again. But this time, instead of going down to that chord on the bass strings, he plays that same shape, again, the G shape. So he's going from the barring the 5th fret to lifting the 5th fret to the 4th fret on the G string. So you get that G shape there. Yep. Then he goes into that really cool, like, F sus chord. And what that is, it's your F bar.